Hello and welcome back. I'm Joseph Hoffman, and today we're going to be learning about intervals. An interval is simply a measurement of the distance between two notes. Let's come to the piano to see how they work. So let's say we wanted to measure the distance between these two notes. We could take out our ruler and say, they're about 1 inch apart. But in music, we're not so interested in inches or feet. We're interested in the distance of the sound between those two notes. Now, you already know that in music, we would call this a step. We could say this note is 1 step higher than this note. And so that's one way we could measure it. And if we went here, you could say, this note is a skip above this note. So now we're a skip apart. But what if we wanted to go this far, or even this far? How do we measure that in music? And that's where we need intervals. So with intervals, we measure like this. We say first note, second note, so we call that a second. That's the interval of a second, which is just a more fancy term for a step. Now from here to here, we'd call it first, second, third. It's the interval of a third. We always have to measure starting from the first note. 1, 2, 3. That's a third. Then from here to here is a fourth. 1, 2, 3. The distance of 4 notes is a fourth. From here to here is a fifth. And then it keeps going from there. We have a sixth, a seventh, and then an eighth. And another word for an eighth is an octave. Oct meaning 8. Octave is the distance of 8 notes, which you'll notice brings you from C to the next C. An octave always brings you back to the note you started on. For example, from D to D, that's also an octave. We can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 notes, brings us back to where we started. Now, intervals can go up or down. Like if we're starting on this G, and I say, can you find the note a third above G? Can you find that on your screen? Point to the note a third above G. You should be pointing right here. That's a third above G. But I could also say, where's the note a third below G? Point to that. Well, we count here as 1, 2, 3. A third below G is right here. Remember, a third is just a fancy term for a skip. You're going to skip either 1 note up or 1 note down. Okay, let's start on D this time. Can you point to the note a fourth above D? If you're pointing right here, you're correct. That's the distance of 4 notes. We always start with 1 on our first note, second note, third note, fourth note, and we call that a fourth. Another way to think about a fourth is that it skips over 2 notes. Can you find a fourth below D? Point to it. If you're pointing right here, you're correct. Here's a fourth down from D. We've skipped over 2 notes in between to make a fourth. This time let's start on an E. Can you find a fifth above E? If you're pointing right here, you're correct. Here's a fifth. Fifths skip over 3 notes. Or another way to think of a fifth is that it's a double skip up. Just like in our pentascales when we do a chord, do, mi, so. Can you find a fifth below E? If you're pointing here, you're correct. Here's a fifth down from E. Let's try a trickier one. Can you find a seventh above this G? Remember, to count the first note as 1, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's the 7th note. If this is the first note, here's the 7th note right here. Okay, last one. Can you find an octave below this D? If you're pointing right here, you're correct. An octave is always going to be the same note you started on, either up an octave or down an octave. So from D to D makes an octave. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Always remember to count your first note as 1 and count from there. Now let's check out how to recognize intervals on the staff. You know by now that if you see a note going from a line to the very next space, Or going from a space to the very next line, a step above or below, that's a step. And now we know the interval term for that, which is called a second. So this is up a second, this is also up a second. Now, if on the other hand we go from a line and skip the next space to a line to a line, or go from a space, skip a line to the next space, we know that that's a third. A quick way to recognize the difference between a third and a second is that with a third, it's going to match line to the nearest line, space to the nearest space. But with steps, it changes from a line to a space or space to a line. As you read music, use that little trick to quickly recognize the difference between a second and a third. Now let's figure out these intervals. How far from here to here? Well, for intervals, we count the first note as 1, then the next space is 2, the next line is 3. That brings us to 4. So we know that's a fourth. And notice that a fourth goes from a line to a space. Or, as in the case up here, it can also go from a space to a line. 1 for the space, 2 for the line, 3 for the space. 4 brings us back to a line. So up a fourth will be line to a space or space to a line. And it will skip a line and a space in between. Now, what interval do we see here? Let's count it. 1 on the line, 2 space, 3 line, 4 space, 5 brings us up here. So from a line, skip a line to a line is a fifth. That also works for space, skip a space to a space. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So to think of a fast way to recognize fifths, just think line, skip a line to a line, or kind of a double skip. Up a line, up another line, or up a space to another space. That would be a fifth. Or a fourth will always skip over a space and a line and switch from a line to a space or a space to a line. Now we can also go beyond fifths. Like, can you figure out this interval? If you said a sixth, you're correct. We start on middle C, and then don't forget to count D, which is the space below the staff. That's 2. 1, 2, 3 on the line, 4, 5, 6. This would be a sixth. One other thing to know about intervals is that the notes can be stacked like this to make like a chord, and that's called a harmonic interval. So we could say this is a harmonic fifth. Or intervals can be played one at a time like this, which would be a melodic fifth. That's a melodic interval. Okay, if you see these two notes on the staff, you need to be able to quickly identify what the interval is so we can play them. Can you tell me what interval you see here? If you said a third, you're correct. You just start by counting this one as 1, 2 for the space, and then 3 for this note on the line. That's a third. Now, let's try to find it on the piano. On the piano, this yellow circle shows you where middle C is as a reference. Can you find and play on your piano those two notes that you see on the screen? The correct answer is here. It starts on a G, and then it goes down a third to here. So we have the interval of a third. Let's try another one. What interval do you see this time? If you said a fifth, you're correct. You can go 1, 2 for the line, 3 for the space, 4 for the line, 5 for the space, and figure out a fifth that way. Or you can just see, oh, it's a double skip, space, skip a space to a space. You could just memorize that a double skip is a fifth. That's the fast way to recognize it as a fifth. Now let's try to find that on the piano. You'll notice that these two are in a harmonic interval. The bottom note's just a step below that treble G line, so we know it's an F. Now, can you figure out the top note where it would be and try playing it on your piano? If you played these two notes, you're correct. Because it's a fifth, it's an F and a C, and we'd play them together as a harmonic interval. Let's try another one. What interval do you see this time? Let's count and check. We had C is 1. We always have to start at the first note as 1, then D is 2, 3 for E on the line, 4 for F on the space. So we know that's a fourth from C to F. Can you try to play those two notes on your piano? The first one's a C, and the next one's a fourth above, which would place it right here. C, F. Let's try some in the bass clef. What interval do you see here? If you said a fifth, you're correct. We can count 1, 2 for the space, 3 for the line, 4 for the space, 5 for the line, or just see double skip, that's a fifth. Line, line, line. Let's find it on the piano. This time we're in the bass clef, and our first note's a skip above the F line. Here's our bass F. We know we're a skip above that. So that places the first note on A, and then the next note's a fifth down, we figured out. So can you figure out where a fifth below this is and play those two notes? If you played A and then D, you're correct. Here's a fifth down from A. Let's try another one. Now what interval do you see? This would be a second. They're just a step apart. And it's a harmonic second. With seconds, you can't quite stack the notes because they're just too close to fit. But if they're touching, you know that you're supposed to play them at the same time. So this is a harmonic second. Can you figure out where those two notes are to be played as a harmonic interval on your piano? Remember, we're somewhere in the bass clef now. Try it on your own piano. If you played these two notes, you're correct. It's an F and a G played together as a harmonic interval. Let's try one more. What interval do you see here? If you said a sixth, you're correct. We can count 1 on the space, 2 on the line, 3 on the space, 4 on the line, 5 on the space, 6 brings us up to this line, so we know it's a sixth. Let's find it on the piano. The first note this time is a bass C, and we know it goes up a sixth, played as a melodic interval. Can you find and play the notes on your piano? Up a sixth from C is right here. It's an A, so it would be C, then up a sixth to A. Great job today learning about intervals. For even more practice with intervals, you can download the printable worksheets for this unit from our website. From now on, whenever you see two notes next to each other on the staff or on the piano, practice in your mind identifying the interval. Eventually, you'll get so fast that you can recognize intervals instantly, like fourth, seventh, third. And that's going to help you become an amazing sight reader. As always, thanks for watching, and see you next time. Okay, Scuba, are you ready to practice your intervals? You betcha. Okay, I'll draw them, you name them. Ready? No, you have to go over there while I make them so it's a surprise. Oh, okay. Okay, ready? All right, let's see here. 1, 2, 3, fourth, third, and fifth. Nice job. Okay, now it's my turn to draw them. Okay, and don't make them too easy. Oh, don't worry, I won't. Let's get some ledger lines this time. More ledger lines. Way up here. And, okay, Princess, I'm ready. Princess? Hey, where are you? Oh, there you are. Come on, I have it set up. Wow, you really made some hard ones. I don't remember making it that hard. Well, you're smart. You'll do great. Okay, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Fifth! Right. And fourth. And, oh boy, 1, 2. Hold on. Wait a minute. I have an idea. What? Let's let the kids figure out this interval on their own. Ooh, good idea. And if you do figure it out, leave a comment below to share your answer. Don't forget to count all the lines and spaces. Hey, no hints. Sorry. Well, good luck and see you next time.